Hey, welcome to the show. Welcome to, I don't know, our number six or number seventh webcast. I'm Rudy Maxa, travel journalist. And on the screen, you can see my guest. His name is Anthony Curtis. We're going to talk to him in just a moment. But first, he's going to have to put up with me traveling around the world with a glass of wine. We do this at every opening, Anthony. I hope you like the sizzle reel if you just tuned in.
I was going to just say, you do a lot of boring stuff, man.
Well, it's crammed into, it's crammed into a short amount of time. So Anthony is going to be with us in a few minutes. We're going to talk about opening up Las Vegas, which is coming up on June 4th, and what that means to you as a traveler, what it means to gamblers. And Anthony also has a very interesting background as a professional gambler we'll talk to him about. And then about half after the hour, Jonathan Karl, the chief White House correspondent for ABC News, will join us. I hope he's going to join us because he's in the White House press room. And if the president decides to have a press conference to, for example, announce what he wants to do about Twitter, which he's saying he's going to do today, then we're going to talk to Anthony a little longer. But we hope Jonathan Karl will join us and talk about traveling with presidents. He's covered four of them, as I recall correctly, and we're going to chat with him. First, I want to show you today's wine is from the south of France, the French Riviera exactly, and it's a cassis. It's a rosé. I thought in honor of warm weather, even here in Minnesota, it was about time to have a warm weather rosé wine. Now, you may have heard of crème de cassis. That's best known to Americans. That is actually a specialty of the region of Burgundy, which is nowhere near the French Riviera. Cassis is actually we would call it a county in France, east of Marseille on the French Riviera. It's known for its cliffs and its coves with gorgeous seawater. They're called clanks, as I recall. So let's try this. I got to tell you, my favorite rosé from that part of the world is called Domaine Ott, O-T-T. I've been drinking that since, well, I used to play a lot of backgammon in the south of France and spent way too much time there, as my ex-wife will be happy to tell you if you ask her. I spent too much time in the south of France drinking too much wine, and I drank something called Domaine Ott. This is new to me. It's said to be one of the finest, according to a guy I buy wine from, this Domaine de Bagnols, B-A-G-N-O-L. I think that's Bagnols. Everybody who watches regularly know I don't speak French, and my daughter who speaks fluent French, I don't see signed in, so I can't ask her. I'm going to try it a little bit, pour a little bit of this rosé. It's always very pretty. The color, very pale, nice. It makes me think of summer all the time. And given the fact that I live in Minnesota, something that reminds me of summer is welcome. It's about 70 degrees here today. I got nothing to complain about. Let's see. Smells nice, very sort of citrusy, appley. This gets a lot of water at night. It gets a lot of mist from the Mediterranean, which is nice for wines to be hot during the day, which it is on the French Riviera, and then cooled at night by mist from a body of water. So let's see. It's very nice. This cost about, I saw it $30 a bottle. I think you can get it for a little cheaper in places. I'd say between $25 and $30 a bottle. Great for poolside drinking. Great if you're going to go to Vegas and gamble and sit by the pool. This is the wine you might want. Nice, a little more full-bodied than I remember Domaine Ott, but then it's been a while since I've had a bottle of Domaine Ott. So I'd suggest this cassis, from Cassis, called Domaine de Bagnols. I paid about $28 for it. I saw it online a couple hours ago, and I was looking it up for $30. So it's in that price range. All right, let me introduce you to my guest, Anthony Curtis. He runs a website called LasVegasAdvisor.com, and that sort of says what he is. He also long ago started a publishing company, and if you go to that website, which is Huntington Press, is it?
Huntington Press, yes. Huntington Press.
Like Huntington Press.
Yeah.
HuntingtonPress.com, you will find an enormous library of books on gambling. So if you want to learn how to count cards in Blackjack, and you want to learn what games are wiser to play than others, and all kinds of other stuff, check out HuntingtonPress.com. If you want advice on visiting Vegas and what's happening there right now, go to LasVegasAdvisor.com. Okay, let's start with this June 4th opening that was announced a couple days ago, I believe. What does that mean? I have to guess, Anthony, it doesn't mean everybody's throwing open the doors and we're right back to 6 months ago.
Well, no. Well, first I was going to say, I feel like I should run downstairs and get a bottle of beer. You know, I mean, just
I could have warned you, Anthony.
It just doesn't seem fair. You're drinking a nice rosé, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna go grab a Bud or a Heineken or something. But
what I would love to do, let me interrupt you. What if this show ever makes any money somehow? I don't know how we're going to do that, but if it ever does, what I want to do is FedEx a bottle of whatever I'm drinking to our guests so they can open it along with me. But
I
That
hope
requires staff.
I hope I have something to say if you ever get there, so I can be a regular guest if that's the way you're going to do it.
It's a deal.
All right, so back to your question. Yeah, June 4th will be we'll make 79 days since the casinos were last open, so didn't quite make it to 80. Most of the casinos are going to open, not all of them. Especially some of the big companies will have sort of a step-up approach where they will open 2 or 3 out of their roster of 12 to 14, that being like MGM and Caesar's Palace.
When you say 2 out of 3, are you talking 2 or 3 of their main properties, or just two or three casino spaces in their big properties?
No. 2 or 3 of the entire casinos. So for example,
hotel slash casino.
Right. If you've got something like MGM that has 10 different properties, they're going to open only 3 of them, which will be Bellagio, New York, and MGM Grand. Now, those casinos themselves will also be opening up sort of in stages that not everything will be open. Certainly, shows will not be happening. Restaurants will be a truncated roster there. So, potentially your favorite restaurant will not be open even if your casino is. The casino floor will also be limited to 50% capacity, and there will be a lot of distancing rules involved, meaning that people can't sit next to each other at slot machines. Blackjack tables will have a maximum of 3 players, roulette 4, crap table 6, that sort of thing.
Wow, that obviously fewer people at each game or each slot machine or each blackjack table or whatever is going to mean a lot less money, isn't it? Obviously, there's no question. Obviously, it's probably a stupid point to make because I think everybody in the audience knows that. Now, do you know if there's a later plan for opening more restaurants, letting more people in, or is this a test to see how it works and how will that test be measured?
Well, I'll tell you, it's been a kind of painful process out here where nobody, including the governor here, has never really put forth a plan the way things were going to happen. There were talk about stages 0 and 1 and 2 and 3 and beyond, but nothing was ever explained what that exactly means. The casinos then did their best to try to be ready for whatever might be thrown their way. And they didn't know till about a week ago that they'd be allowed to open on June 4th. So I assume there are internal plans, but they're all going to be based on results. They're going to take a look and see how many people come back and what exactly is happening. To your point, how much money are they actually losing by being open? And, should they open new places in new parts of their resorts?
But you're going to have, Vegas is a tourist town. You're going to have, 80%, 90% of the people from out of state. They're going to be there for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Then they're going back to, Ohio and Delaware and California and wherever they came from. Are they going to be asked to let somebody know if a week or 2 later they develop symptoms?
I don't think so. There's been a lot of talk about, whose responsibility is and liability and things of that nature. I think that's a kind of closet concern for a lot of people. I just know there's going to be a lot of precautions put in place, and there's going to be a lot of provisos or red herrings or warnings or whatever, I think to mitigate that sort of thing. I think it's going to be thought of as, hey, look, is your choice to come here. If you come here and something happens, it's pretty much on you. But it's really important for Las Vegas for that not to happen. Las Vegas wants to be as absolutely safe as possible. So the perception is, yes, it's okay to come to Vegas. It is safe. So believe me, the casinos have in their best interest to keep you healthy.
I guess what I just don't know, to rephrase the question, is how they measure whether it's safe. Because if you're asymptomatic, your temperature, if they're reading temperature at the door, you're going to get in with no problem. Even if you're asymptomatic, obviously you can pass it along. No one's going to fall down with the virus while playing blackjack and people go, oh my gosh. It's not till people get home, is anyone going to know if anybody got sick in that casino or in Vegas?
I doubt it. I don't think there's any way to track that. I'm sure that
the Coast Guard would leave with a stamp on it saying, if you get sick, send it back to us and let us know. That would be one way. Not that I'm an expert on this, but any way of letting the casino know, look, I was in your casino, or I was in your 3 casinos while in Vegas, and it's a week later now, and I'm in Toledo, Ohio, and I've got it.
Well, let's think. Do they really want to know that? To be honest, they probably really don't want to even hear that. So I don't think they're lobbying for it. And if that happens and they hear about it, we'll see where it goes.
That may be true. But for anybody to say they're monitoring it is really pretty difficult. Although I guess they can monitor their employees. And if a significant number of their employees take ill, that's a problem right there. Whether it came from visitors or not will be unknowable, but right. It'll be a problem, obviously.
Yeah, that'll be one way to sort of keep track of what's going on. The Nevada record keeping and the in-house record keeping of each one regarding their employees would probably be the best way to track that. Right.
Let our those in the audience know you can ask questions by typing your comment over in the lower right-hand corner of this if you have some questions for Anthony. Okay, so Will, do you think some of the smaller casinos, or maybe some of the casinos that don't have as big as names as the one on the strips, the ones downtown, for example, or off the strip, do you think they will be opening as well?
Most of them will. We've been tracking it ourselves, and we just actually put up a list on our website of the places that we know, or at least have declared that they're going to open on next Thursday. There are very few of the smaller casinos that aren't going to open. For instance, downtown, almost every casino, I believe, downtown is opening. The only one that is not for sure is Main Street Station, which is a member of the Boyd Group. And Boyd already has two casinos down there, being Fremont and California. So they're 2 of 3 are opening. It looks like, we expected more casualties here, but it looks like there aren't many right off the bat.
Are there any big boys along the strip that have surprised you in that they're not opening?
Only one with a delay, and that's Westgate. And Westgate was a former Hilton, which is actually not really on the strip anyway. It's right off behind the strip, just east of the strip. And they're delaying it by about another 2 weeks as of now. They've got a June 18th date. That's about the only one. It's just about every other single one says that they are going to open on June 4th. Now, that remains to be seen as well. It's been a moving target on when these places were going to open, but now they have the go-ahead. They're saying June 4th, so it looks like almost all of them are going to open.
Unless there are big conventions in town, which there often are in Vegas, although not now, of course, room rates are generally very reasonable. Do you have any sense of, are they really, really discounting room rates, or are they just sort of normally low?
They're normally low in the summertime anyway, but I can tell you this, after every problem that Las Vegas has had, they come back with values and deals, and it starts with room rates. So, after 9/11, after during the recession, after the strip shooting, immediately the reaction was to not just lower room rates, but to slash them. So I think that there's a very good chance. They're not posting these rates yet. Well, they are for the near term, but they're not posting their midsummer rates yet. So we haven't been able to see, but I would place a hefty bet that there will be some very good bargains in terms of rooms, because they've got to fill their hotels to get back in the other areas.
So the fancy places in the strip might be $99, $124 a night, or.
Yeah, I think you can get below 100 on some of the best places on the strip. Now, wow. A lot of your savvy listeners out there who come to Vegas will go, well, what about the resort fee? Because you have situations where, okay, so you got a great room rate, you got $78 on the strip, but you got a $40 resort fee, which puts you back over 100. Well, I don't think that resort fees are going to go away right away. They're not going to go away for good. They may be suspended right away. We'll see. That hasn't happened yet. But if you've got a very low base rate in the 70s or 80s, and they tack on another 20 or 40, and you're looking at 100 or 110 for a room on the strip, that's not bad either. I like to put them all together. I like to assume that that's one price and not get angry about the fact that they're tacking it on behind.
Well, I wish all hotels would do that, and there's certainly a move afoot in Washington to get sites that sell hotel rooms just to put the darn whole price on there when you first see it. Yeah. I know why some hotels don't. They want you to click on the lowest price and then later tell you. One of the questions about resort fees is there going to be any part of the resort open? Will the pool be open? Will the health clubs be open? Will the business centers be open? Some of those things you pay resort fee for might not be open right off the bat, and they might, as you say, either not charge you for it for a while or bring it down a bit. Well, we have a question. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's fine.
No, please.
I was simply going to say another reason that the resort fees are such a sacred cow is that the casinos do a lot of bookings through what they call OTAs, which are online travel agencies. And the resort fee is a way for them to get out of splitting the fee. So they split the base fee with the OTAs, but they don't have to split the resort fee. And that's why they're in love with it.
And of course, the OTAs, or at least one of them, has stopped letting them do that. And I'm sure it's a matter of time before Expedia and the other big ones go, no, you're going to give us a piece of that resort fee. We'll see. Oh, yeah. That's not our problem. Not our problem today.
Battle Royal is brewing there, that's for sure.
Yeah. We have a question from Larry. Oh, the important question. When have they announced when nightclubs and strip clubs will be allowed to reopen and under what restrictions? Speaking of social distancing, lap dancing ain't qualifying.
Yeah, Larry sounds like a partier. All right, he sounds like the typical Vegas partier. It's interesting that when they put out a list and they opened Vegas last week or earlier this week, and they put out a list of all the things that were open and then a small list of things that were not. And the things that were not are just the things that you just mentioned: the gentleman clubs, the brothels in other parts of Nevada, the nightclubs, the day clubs around the pools. Those are the ones that continue to be off the list of being able to do. Those are the ones that are probably not going to come back for several weeks, if not throughout the entire summer. It's going to be a little bit of a drab summer. Now, the pools will be open. You'll be able to go out to the pools. You'll be able to sunbathe. You'll be able to swim. They just won't have the big parties out there. And the clubs that Vegas is noted for these days will not be open, at least for probably several weeks or a couple months.
And it should be noted, if you have never been to Vegas, if you go to a nightclub in one of the major strip casinos, we're talking several thousand people in a club. So it's not your little downtown St. Paul, Minnesota club. Not that we have any here in St. Paul. I should say Minneapolis. They've got a couple of clubs.
Well, essentially what they did is everything that makes social distancing almost impossible is left off the list. That's pretty much what it is. This is like all targeted at social distancing. I know we're all sick of hearing the term probably, but that's still the watch phrase out here for sure.
Romeo says that the Wynn Resort, which of course is one of the swankiest along the strip, is offering $129 if you're a red card holder. I guess that's your frequent player or guest card deal. Right. 129, nice. Wonder if that includes the resort fee. I'm sure Romeo will let us know before our talk is over.
Yeah, my guess is that probably does not include the resort fee. A typical Wynn or Encore price right now would be closer to $159, $169. So you're looking at a relatively good 25% discount or so right there. I think It's going to get better, much better. I think you're going to see much better than that.
Okay. By the way, I have just received a word from our next guest, Jonathan Karl, that his worst fear was realized. The president has just announced he's signing an executive order in 30 minutes and doing a press conference on it. And he needs to cover it because he's the chief White House correspondent. Anthony, we want to ask you to stay on for the hour because it's a fascinating conversation. Is that all right with you?
Hey, I'm happy to do it. Yeah, sure. I'll watch you drink wine.
I'll need a second bottle by that second half hour. Let's talk about, we'll still take questions. If you have Lila says, I don't know if this was asked already because she just tuned in, I guess. Will the player lounges be open? What are the player lounges? Are those for high rollers?
Yeah, the player lounges are for people who have a higher status of a player's card. So, that could go all the way from a high roller to a person who is just a better than average player in the eyes of the casino. So they've accumulated enough play in order to get a different colored card or a different tier of card. To my knowledge right now, nobody's really addressed it, but I would expect the lounges will be open. The lounges are actually kind of an extension of the lobby, and it's where people go to get faster check-in and things like that. So they want to bring back their gamblers. I would be very surprised if the lounges are not open, but I don't know for certain on that one.
So go right ahead, Layla. The lounges are open. Have a ball and send us a postcard for.
But you know what? This is a good opportunity for me to make what may be the most important point right now. If you are considering coming back to Las Vegas because, whatever, you're young and strong, or you've got, you've had it already and you've got the antibodies, or you don't care, or whatever the situation is, and you're willing to come back now, what you really need to do is call ahead to the place you're going to stay or to the places you want to go to. For example, we have a fantastic restaurant out here called Lotus of Siam, considered one of the best in the United States for sure.
Great Thai restaurant. Thai restaurant.
It is. And Lotus right now is closed. It has 2 locations and both are closed. And they're not necessarily going to open right away. So if you usually come out to Vegas and you go, look, it always includes a trip to Lotus, or it always includes X, Y, or Z show, you need to call ahead and make sure. In the instance of this caller, this question that was just asked, she should call the place she is going and ask them directly, will your lounge be open? And if that affects, if a negative on that affects your trip, then you need to know that going in.
Wayne has a question. I asked you, and we talked on the phone when I asked you to be a guest here, which is a crucial one. What about airline schedules coming into Vegas? Do you have any sense of whether, I must tell you, I flew for the first time this last weekend, and I was surprised at the number of people on the plane. And this week, a friend of mine talked to a friend of his who's a flight attendant, and she said the planes are really filling up quickly. Do you have any sense of increased air service to Vegas beginning next week?
My feeling is that the airlines, and from what I've heard, is the airlines are very much going to treat this the way the casinos are. They're going to monitor demand, and they're at the ready to open up routes if it's called for. They're certainly not going to do it if they're going to have empty seats and flying and spending money on fuel and all of that, and they're not making a profit. So it's going to be very determinant on what the population does, what the citizenry of the traveling citizenry of the United States and beyond are going to do. They're ready to go. They're ready to ramp it up. It's not like they can't do it very quickly, but like the casinos, they'll monitor demand.
My guest is Anthony Curtis. He runs a couple companies. One is a publishing company that publishes a lot of books on on gambling. And that is Huntington Press. You can find those books at huntingtonpress.com. We are zeroing in a little bit more today on his website, which is LasVegasAdvisor.com. I felt like I'd taken drugs when I clicked on it, Anthony. There's a lot of colors and a lot of banners and waves, but that's Vegas, isn't it? It's the Strip online. Anyway, go there. What are the three most important things somebody going to your website might profit from looking at?
Probably wherever we are putting the current information. That's the thing. The website is full of current information, and we put that in an area every day called Vegas News. So every day there's anywhere from 3 to 9 or 10 different items of things that have happened or news that is broken and that we put up there. Second, we have a number of blogs, and right now the current one is called Vegas and the Virus. That's the one that we've been keeping up to date, and everything essentially that we come across and learn about timetables and what's going on, we put into that blog. So, people who want to know what's going on with Las Vegas right now, they can hear what I have to say here, but that may be different, 2-3 hours from now. So you check out the website and you check the news and, you check the blogs. Beyond that, it's, pretty much just basically whatever's happening. We have, a question of the day we've done this for 13 or 14 years straight, where we've answered a question about gambling or Vegas or a casino area. And we're just always constantly putting up content. And we also work with, I think, your friend, Michael Trager and Michael Friedman, who run a blog for us or a section of the website called The Travel Game, where we're really starting to get into all the things about airline miles and things of that nature.
Do you have, if there are exceptional hotel deals, do you post those?
Yeah, we do. Well, when we find things that are very good, we put them up whether we're dealing with them or not. But part of our business is also to work as an affiliate with for people that sell hotels and things. So we get discount codes. And we have something called the Travel Portal, which is, we've done many, many studies and comparison things where the Travel Portal often comes in at anywhere, with lower prices, anywhere from 40 to 50% of the opportunities to book. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to save money on our website. We make some money off of them, and others are just information that we put up because they go hand in hand.
That site again is LasVegasAdvisor.com. Again, if you just tuned in, Andy Curtis is my guest today. He runs LasVegasAdvisor.com. You have a distinctively colorful background, and I think we should spend a good amount of time on that. You started something as a kid. You started doing what as a kid?
Well, I grew up in Detroit, and okay. I was a game player. I mean, I played board games and I played short course card games. I played, sat around the table and watched my grandparents and parents playing pinochle and, learn the game, and they'd let me sit in every once in a while. And it turned out I had a knack for it. So I guess I was in 10th or 11th grade in high school, and a friend of the family came and gave me a book, and he said, "I think you'll understand this." And it was a book on counting cards. And I read the book. I was in high school. I read the book, and it instantly resonated with me. And I said, "Oh yeah, I get this. I can do this."
Were you good at math in school?
I was good. I mean, I wasn't, it's not like I was a math major in college or anything, but I was, I was good with numbers. And what really, the important thing is I had a very good grasp of probability. I just had an innate grasp of probability.
Before you go further, Anthony, explain to our audience what counting cards is in terms of the game of blackjack.
Okay, counting cards is essentially taking advantage of a vulnerability in the game of blackjack, where it is a game of what a mathematician or a statistician would call a game of dependent trials. And I'll try not. Don't worry. That's as technical as I get. But what that means is that's what's happened before has a bearing on what's going to happen next. So let's take an example like dice or craps. Now, the fact if somebody throws 3 sevens in a row, that does not diminish or increase the chance that a 7 will be thrown on the next. That's an independent trial game. But if you're playing a game at blackjack with a single deck and 4 aces come out on the first hand and they deal again, you know that you cannot get a blackjack. It's dependent on what you've just seen. So card counting takes that vulnerability and tries to essentially quantify it for you. So you watch the cards as they come out. You give them a number, a weight, all right? You weight them in terms of their importance to you, and you count that sort of like in your head, but on a number line where it goes positive or negative. When it's negative, it means it's in the casino's favor. When it's positive, it's in the player's favor, and you make bigger bets. And essentially, in a nutshell, that's what card counting is.
And you can find a book at huntingtonpress.com, I'm sure, on card counting.
Several.
Yeah, right, exactly. So you're in what grade were you in? How old?
I was in 10th or 11th. I'm not sure when he gave it to me.
Okay, so you're in high school. And card counting resonates with you. It just hits you in the right spot, and you start reading about that, right?
Yeah, I start reading about that, and I go on with my my normal life. I was a wrestler in Michigan, and I was a good wrestler, and had scholarship offers, and I accepted one to Duke. So I went to Duke, and while I was at Duke, I was still spending more time studying gambling than I was studying my classes. I got another wrestling offer to go to UCLA, and I didn't have to look at a map to know that UCLA was closer to Vegas than Duke. So I moved around, and I continued to prepare to turn 21. I turned 21, legal age to gamble, and did not even graduate. Left school and moved immediately to Las Vegas and got on the streets. And
I'm sure your parents were very proud, right?
Well, what's funny about that is my father was a university professor. But he was in a field that was very reliant on statistics and math. And when I explained it to him and put it in front of him, he was very understanding. And he actually said, "Go give it a go."
Oh my goodness, that is incredible. Has he ever come with you did he ever come with you to card count?
Oh sure. He came and watched me in action many times. And I actually he passed away a couple of years ago, but before he died, I published a book by him, and it's a book called The Art of Gambling, which is a depiction of gambling through the ages through art pieces done by Cezanne and Matisse and these sorts of people, where he found the art piece and did the history of the art piece, and I described what was going on in the image. And that was something very cool of me to do, given that my father gave me the green light to go to Vegas and try it. And I did that and formed the publishing company off of the winnings and ended up publishing my dad. That was pretty cool.
That is very cool. Okay. So I know a little bit about card counting. I embarrassed to admit too much about it, actually. And I know that working in teams can often be more profitable. Can you explain why that is? And I know because we talked earlier, you did work in teams. Tell us about that.
Yeah, working in teams has a number of advantages. The mathematical advantage is it allows you to bet basically more money out of a joint bankroll, and it smooths the fluctuations. All right, so if I'm playing, let's say, if you're, it's funny, people who know what I do now, where I'm not allowed to play at casinos, they think I can walk in and take out money like it's like I'm an ATM machine or something. And it doesn't work like that. Over a long period of time, card counting has a small advantage that will bear out, and you will win over a long period, but you can lose very easily in a single session or many sessions in a row or a week or a month. So, I might go out and play a night and have a bad night and lose a few $100s or more, but my teammates, on the other hand, have a good night as they're supposed to, and they make up for my losses and then beyond. So it smooths out the mathematical fluctuations. It also is more social. It also allows you to bounce ideas off one another. So that's why a lot of the really good players sought out other good players, or still do to today, and they play together.
All right, I have a follow-up question to that, but Cheryl wants to know what the name of the book on art and gambling was that your dad wrote.
It's called The Art of Gambling, and the author is Arthur Flowers. That was my dad's name. He changed it because he worked with kids with learning disabilities, and he had a Polish name that went to Flowers, and then I changed mine to Curtis we're always changing things. But it's by Arthur Flowers. It's called The Art of Gambling, and I'm listed also as a co-author.
And you can get it at huntingtonpress.com. Okay, this working with
Let me add this before you go past that. If this person wants to buy it, this book has a $65 price tag at Amazon, and at LasVegasAdvisor.com we're selling it for $7 right now because of the pandemic and all that. We're overstocked, and if she goes to LasVegasAdvisor.com and goes to the store, she can get that book for $7 plus postage.
Wonderful. Okay, so you're working as a team. Does the team ever does more than one member of the team ever sit at the same table, so that if the numbers start showing this is a time to start pressing your bet, making bigger bets, both of you can push more chips forward?
Yeah, I think you know this answer, but I'll go ahead and give it to the audience. There's a very common way of playing called the big player model, and in the big player model, you might have, let's say you've got 7 people on a team. 6 of those people will go to 6 different tables, and they will count. Usually they'll play in a shoe game where, with good penetration. So you're getting a lot of hands as opposed to a single or double deck where there's a lot of shuffling. Now what they'll do is they'll count that shoe down to a point where it becomes a positive play or a good positive play. And they'll make some kind of a signal. Maybe they'll put a hat on, maybe they'll scratch their head, who knows. But the big player then will see that signal and walk into the game fresh, buy in very quickly, and will then make big bets right off the top with the player who is at the table actually running the play, actually shepherding the play and telling the big player what to do. And we did a lot of that. And because I was the youngest at the time when I played with our team, and I was also a rugby player, and we used to drink a lot of beer, and I could drink and play. So I was always the designated big player from our team because I would be drinking a beer the whole time and, be beyond suspicion. And I would come into the game on the signal, and I would be signaled on how to play it. And as soon as the advantage went away, I would go, that's enough. And I'd pick up and walk around and look for the next signal.
All right. I guess we should make the point that your goal in drinking beer and being a jolly fellow and talking to neighbors is to not make it look like you're a card counter. In other words, you're not sitting there staring at each card and lip syncing the numbers as you count 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus whatever. Your goal is to be just some guy who happens to get lucky, and then this big guy comes and starts putting big bets. Well, that's the way life goes, Right.
That's the beauty.
You mentioned that
the big player model is that the person who's a big player looks like the normal tourist. And in card counting in general, whether you're playing by yourself or whether you're playing with a group, the card counting is equal parts science, art and science. And the science is, learning to do it. The science is learning how to count the cards and make the plays. The art is looking like you're not doing it and getting away with it.
So you mentioned just in passing in your previous answer that you are barred from casinos now, and obviously it's always been a legal battle all over different casinos in different states about whether it's legal to ban card counters. I mean, after all, they're not doing anything illegal; they're just doing a little math here, Right. But casinos have gotten away with being able to ban card counters. And once you're banned, well, you can explain that to me in a second. But how long did you get away being on a team before they said, Anthony, we don't really, really want you around anymore?
Quite a while. The reason that I eventually got picked off, and, I might not have for a long time, but we also got into tournament play. And in a tournament, lots of people get together and they all put up an entry fee and you play against one another. And we just, through computer models and things, determined that we could beat tournaments for big amounts of money. And we did. We did very, very well in tournaments. And I did particularly well in tournaments. And the trade-off was a high-profile win. So I got known as a guy who kept winning tournaments. And eventually the casinos put it all together and said, okay, something's kind of screwy here.
What's eventually?
Played for a decade and a half. Played for 15 years.
15 years before you were nailed?
Yes. From the time that I came to Vegas, and there were probably a 2 to 3 year period where I was kept getting my feet under me. I was learning the game. I was making my connections. But from the time that I actually ended up playing for higher stakes with money that made me a pro, which is what I lived on, to the point where I really couldn't do it anymore, it was a good 15 year.
Isn't it an unusually long time? How'd you do that? By varying casinos? Did you wear disguises? Did you grow a beard? Or
we went to different places. We played all over Nevada. I mean, we literally would get in a car and or 2 cars and do a caravan and drive from city to city and play all the way up to Reno and then Tahoe and back the other way down the other side of the state, playing in all the different places. And by then you've been out of Vegas for a few weeks and you come back on different shifts, and then you go out to Atlantic City and then you go to the islands. And, around that time they started opening casinos and other places around the United States. By then I had the writing was on the wall for me. I knew I was going to start the publishing company. And I started doing a lot of television. I did a bunch of Travel Channel shows and Learning Channel and all, where I talked about gambling, did demonstrations, and that was it for me. Once I decided that I was going to go public and be on TV, which was good for the publishing business, that was it for playing, live games. And I made that decision. I was okay with that.
Do you miss it?
No, I don't miss it. And what's interesting about it is, well, first of all, to me, I've got a lot of friends who are card counters that are older, but to me, it's a young person's game. You can't really have a wife or a family or have a stable situation when you're traveling all over. It's really great to be a kid in your 20s and 30s and going around and meeting cocktail waitresses and doing all that sort of thing as part of the game. So it was terrific. But when you get older, you don't really want to do all that kind of travel and movement. If I couldn't play at all, if I couldn't play positive situations at all, I would miss it. But I'm very much allowed to play beatable games like video poker, which can go positive with progressive meters and things like that. Sports betting is a game that can be beaten. Poker is a game that can be beaten, and I'm not banned from doing any of those things. So I still get to do it. I just don't play table games.
Did you ever go overseas, other than maybe Nassau? Did you ever go to, France or Egypt? And England? Did you ever card count?
I went to England. I went to Europe, but very briefly. And now all of my friends, I have a lot of friends who are still in the business. That's one of the reasons why LasVegasAdvisor.com is so good and our books are so good, because I'm very in touch with what's going on in the world, because all my best friends are still what they call advantage players, meaning they're professionals that now travel the world. And these guys, they go to the Orient, they go, to Europe, they go, all over the United States, they go to South America, they go to Mexico, they play all over the world. I never did that. My play was pretty much confined to the United States, the mainland. But I certainly could have, and you certainly can today.
Is your picture in a book somewhere that's circulated worldwide? Say, don't invite him.
Yeah, my picture's in a few books under a whole bunch of different names. But yeah, my picture's in a few books.
Okay. I wanted to ask, you mentioned sports betting. Will the sports betting operations in casinos be open, do you suppose?
Oh, yeah. Well, the sports betting operations have been open throughout the whole thing, throughout the shutdown.
Really?
Yeah, the casinos that have apps to allow you to bet sports remotely have all been open unless they chose to shut down their apps. So people have been betting sports. I've been betting sports through the apps straight through. In places like in other states like New Jersey or Pennsylvania, who have a mobile component, people have been betting sports through their mobile apps. People have been playing casino games through their mobile apps. So this is going to create a sea change in the United States. We're going to see a lot more places that have legalized gambling go to remote and mobile legalization as well, because they saw what happened and who came out well during this shutdown.
So some casinos did okay just on online gambling on sports events.
Yeah, and qualify that okay. Okay is about as good as you can go. They all lost money, but some did less bad than others. Put it that way.
Right. Certainly not as big as having 1,000 slot machines and 50 tables open. I understand that.
Right.
Lena has a very specific question here, Anthony. Are single deck blackjack tables? Well, this is not. I'm sorry. Where there's one. What was? Oh, here it is. Beverly. I'm going to come to you in a minute, Lena. This is an easy answer. Are single deck blackjack tables still easy to find on the Strip and/or downtown?
They're not easy to find anymore. Single deck is kind of gone the way of the 99-cent shrimp cocktail. And that you can find them every once in a while, but often with not very good rules. To be honest, there's only two decent single deck games in all of Las Vegas, one at the El Cortez and another at a place called Silverton on opposite sides of the city. All of the other single decks that you'll play have a very onerous rule that blackjacks pay 6-5 as opposed to 3-2, and you don't want to play that game. So single decks are not easy to find. If you move outside of Vegas, you can still find them, around Nevada in different places.
What was the second one? Silver what?
Silverton, it's called. One word.
Silver tent?
Silverton, T-O-N.
Oh, Silverton. Oh, like the town of Silverton, right? Okay, this is a question. Beverly wants to know, how would I find out what casinos still have Kingmaker casino game of 20 multi-card Keno?
Holy mackerel! That's a difficult one. I can't even answer that one off the top of my head. I would say that the best thing to do is to send it, again, go to our website and send an email with that question to our question of the day. I mean, send us an email and we will probably take that on and research it and find it, because I wouldn't know off the top of my head how to find it. I don't know per se of a website that lists the different Keno games and where they are. We'd have to research it.
Well, our follow-up question is, do casinos have apps for remote online 20-card, multi-card Keno games?
Probably not. And, none in Nevada would. In Nevada, you can play at certain casinos, you can play games remotely, but just barely remotely, meaning that you've got to be on property. You've literally got to be in the casino to do it.
Your restaurant.
Yeah. And in other places, like New Jersey, Pennsylvania, you just have to be in the state. I think Nevada is going to move to that position eventually. But right now, no. They pretty certainly the answer to that question would be no.
Okay. My guest is Anthony Curtis. He runs the I always have to look, the Las Vegas Advisor.com website. It's filled with all kinds of information on Vegas, and we're talking about Vegas with him. If you tuned in to see ABC's White House correspondent, Jonathan Karl, I must apologize, or he apologizes as well. It was always an iffy thing because he's at the White House covering what's going on, and we were hoping it would be a quiet afternoon, but it's not. The president, about 15 minutes ago, announced he was having a press conference, probably having to do with his decision or his frustration and anger with Twitter labeling some of his tweets as being maybe not exactly 100% true. So Alan is his brother. Sorry, Jonathan Karl had to cover that. He's probably in there doing it right now live. He has promised to try to come next week when maybe we'll have a quiet afternoon. So meanwhile, we're taking questions.
They're stuck with me. That's a long way of going around and saying, Mal, you're stuck with me.
Right. Well, I should say that Anthony is being kind enough to stay with us for the rest of the hour, because I think everybody's fascinated with Vegas. It's a huge, along with Orlando, one of the always vying for the top number one place that Americans go on vacation. So there's a lifelong interest in Vegas, even if you've never been there. People who want to go. So when would you, if you were planning a vacation to Vegas, what would you do? Would you wait a couple of months, see how things shake down? What?
Well, that's the big question. I mean, that's the question I get asked over and over again.
Yeah, I get asked, when should I fly? When should I go to Paris? When should I travel? Yep. We don't know, right? Yeah,
exactly. And it depends. It's, you're in one of two. You could put yourself in a lot of categories, but let's call it two categories. Category one is the category that wants Vegas the way they remember Vegas. And, with all the hustle and bustle and all the bells and whistles. And that person is going to be disappointed if they come quickly. The casinos will open next week, but they're just not going to be the same. It's not going to look the same. There's not going to be the same vibe. It's not going to have the social atmosphere that a lot of people come for. I know a lot of people that have, we hear from a lot of our members and our readers, and they tell us about lifelong friendships they've made on a trip to Vegas where they've met like-minded people and have become friends. Well, we're going to be told to stay away from one another, and that aspect's not going to be there. Now, you've got a second category of people who kind of come here and go, I love Vegas, but I hate the crowds. So, that group is they're going to be in heaven, all the way. They're going to be in heaven right now because they're not going to have to deal with strip gridlock. They're not going to have to deal with, they're going to be able to gamble in obscurity or by themselves. They're not going to have to deal with lots of people at the games. And for those people, they couldn't have picked a better time to come than now.
I think I read somewhere that there are going to be plexiglass screen sheets between people at blackjack tables and so on. Is that what you're hearing?
Some places, they won't all be like that. They're not mandated by gaming control or by the government here. What is mandated is that the dealers and most employees will have to wear protective gear, meaning masks for sure, and probably gloves. That's mandated. Some places will take it a step farther and they will put up the plexiglass. The plexiglass will separate the players and the dealers, and in some instances, the players from the players. So it's going to be like we're all willing to go into cages and gamble.
And we ought not forget, you can also just travel to Vegas, and you don't have to live the casino life. When you have folks who come in from out of town, it says maybe as your house guests, and they say, what can we do? We don't gamble. We don't want to go to casinos. They're too crowded or not crowded enough, whatever it is. What else do you suggest can be done as a visitor to Vegas?
Well, what's really great about Vegas and what a lot of foreigners come here for, by foreigners, I mean, non-U.S. people, is the outdoors. We're in the middle of a desert, but it's a pretty brilliant desert. With 15 miles away, we have something called the Red Rock Loop, which is a fantastic bike ride if you can handle, up and down mountains for 14 miles, or it's even better, if you want to just drive it in your car. Further away, we've got the Valley of Fire. Not far away, not too far away, 4 or 5 hours, we've got, the rim of the Grand Canyon. So we've got a lot of outdoor things that you can do here. Otherwise, there are just a lot of non-gambling activities that are going to be opening up. The Bellagio is going to have its fountain show from day one. The Bellagio Conservatory is going to be open. New York is going to open its roller coaster. Container Park downtown, which is an enclave of shops and bars and restaurants, is already opened up, and it's going to open up further. The high roller observation wheel, over on the Strip is going to be in action. So there's going to be plenty to do. Not everything is going to be open. What's going to be missing out of the entertainment equation is going to be the shows, but there's going to be a lot of events and things that people can do for sure.
What's the boneyard or graveyard of all those great old neon Vegas signs called? What's that called?
Yeah, they call it the neon graveyard or the neon boneyard, and that's downtown. And that's just kind of a cool thing if you're a fan of old Vegas and you've been here before, you've watched Vegas on TV shows and things. A lot of those signs that have been retired have been taken there, and they're all laid out, and you can walk through them and check them out and take photos with them and that sort of thing.
Great Instagram shots, aren't they?
Yeah. That along with, just the Welcome to Las Vegas sign. You just go out to the Las Vegas Boulevard and take a shot at the sign. That's another thing we have on LasVegasAdvisor.com. We have video cams at all of these kinds of places where you can look at it right now through your computer and see what the Strip looks like right now and at other times.
I always called it Red Rock Canyon. Was that wrong? Is it still?
No, that's correct. Red Rock Canyon. But what I mentioned the loop goes through the canyon. Yeah, the loop is the drive that goes through the canyon. Right. But it's Red Rock Canyon, which you can drive or hike or bike.
I have hiked that every time I go to Vegas. I hike it, even if I'm going to be a casino denizen. I would recommend going early in the morning when the sun comes up, because it gets really hot midday. And I would also recommend taking more water than you think you need. But it's a great hike. You won't get lost. And the paths are great, and it's up and down, and it's just and visually it's just stunning. Red Rock Canyon is.
Yeah, that's good advice. I famously one time, thinking I was some kind of a hotshot, rode my bike all the way from Vegas. I rode up the mountain 15 miles to the loop, then rode the loop, and drove back down. With the latter part of that journey being out of water and essentially being in hypothermia, it was 112 degrees out, and I was shivering and shaking. You've got to stay. You got to keep the water. You've got to keep yourself in a good condition there.
And you mentioned, and this, I don't know this, I've heard of it, but I didn't know it was close by. Another desert after that, you said.
That's the Valley of Fire.
Right. How far away is that? Tell me about that.
The Valley of Fire is out towards Utah. So you're getting near, all the Utah state parks and mountainous areas. And the Valley of Fire is in Nevada, and it's kind of like Red Rock on steroids, in that it's just more so. It's Red Rock, but more so. It's an hour away, 45 minutes away, but it's a fabulous drive with all of the rock structures and things that the desert has, formed into these incredible shapes and colors and things. And the Valley of Fire is a very cool thing, something that everybody should do at some time.
Are there accommodations there for staying if you drive the 4 hours and want to stay overnight?
You could. What you would normally do is you'd stay at another city called Mesquite. All right, so right near the Valley of Fire is a city called Mesquite, which has about 5 casinos of its own, and 2 or 3 of them are like really big resorts with golf courses and a lot of Vegas denizens go to Mesquite for like a staycation or a quick getaway, and they play golf and go to the spas and pools and hang out in the casinos there. So yeah, you could definitely get accommodations if you wanted to make a night trip of it.
And then I guess we should mention the Hoover Dam, right?
Hoover Dam, how could I forget that? Yeah, the Hoover Dam. I haven't checked it. Thanks for reminding me. I've got to check that before the next newsletter goes out. But I believe the Hoover Dam will be opening up soon again. See, there we go back to my advice to make a call. If you're a person who goes, okay, good, I'm going to take this opportunity to go see all these cool things, you got to make sure they're open.
But you can do the Red Rock, and you can drive down toward New Mexico. New Mexico parks are gorgeous as well, from the pictures I've seen. Though I've been to New Mexico, but I've never gone in some of those state parks. But some of them look stunning.
Yeah, they're all everything in that regard is open. You know why Hoover Dam is open for that matter. You know, you can go see Hoover Dam. You just maybe can't take the tour. And a lot of people, when they go to Hoover Dam, they want to take that tour. So you want to make sure the tour is operating.
Are helicopter tours running?
No, those are not running yet, which is an interesting thing here because our office is just adjacent, right off the strip. And the helicopters, they buzz the strip that as part of their show all the time. And we're used to seeing 100 helicopters or more come by here a day. And the skies are open right now. So when they open up again, I'll be one of the first to know because here they come every 7 to 10 minutes as a helicopter overhead. Boy,
tourism is such a big part of Vegas. And so many people are out of work. Can you feel it? I mean, what's it like living there?
Well, it's been different here than anywhere else. And a lot of people don't realize that when the discussions were going on about, what's worse, the disease or the cure, it meant one thing in other parts of the country or the world, and it meant something completely different in Las Vegas because we are so dependent on it. To close, if anybody had ever said the casinos were going to close for 79 days, nobody would have believed it. In April, Macau, which is actually a bigger gambling destination in terms of money wagered than Vegas, closed for 15 days. And everybody here gasped, like, how could Vegas ever do that? So, about a week later, I did an interview with USA Today, and they asked me that question. And I said, oh, Vegas will never close. And a few days later, Vegas closed. And it's, like I said, it'll be 79 days since that, and nobody could have ever dreamed it. And to say the city is hurting is a vast understatement. The whole trickle-down effect of the economy here has been staggered and is stunned, and people can't wait to get back to work here. They're willing to take their chances, as crazy as that sounds.
No, it doesn't sound crazy. Macau, by the way, is in Asia and Southeast Asia. It's just across the water from Hong Kong in the southern part of China, and it is now part of China. It used to be a Portuguese territory. It's not anymore. Okay, so casinos are going to open. They're going to watch and see. I guess going back to the beginning of our conversation, that if employees don't get sick, they'll open more of the casinos because they'll feel good about it because they're not going to be able to measure whether guests take ill a week or two later when they get back to Ohio.
Yeah, what the customer has going for him here is that the casinos are extremely fearful that something bad will happen. I mean, the casinos want nothing more but for this to be a good and safe experience. And I would even venture to say that, some of the plans that I've seen and read look like they're going on, almost too far, if that's possible, with the precautions that they're taking. So it's all about perception. And every time you hear somebody who's from the inside who talks about an internal planning meeting, they're like, whatever we do, we have got to keep the perception or the reality, because perception is reality. If somebody, gets sick, that this is a safe place to come. And they are going to do everything in their power to keep it that way.
Well, I hope so. And I hope it's a successful opening. And I really appreciate your staying with us a little longer, Anthony. I really do. And thanks for giving us some other tips about traveling to Vegas that might not involve counting cards or playing blackjack. Again, Anthony Curtis is my guest. You can read his writings and those of his colleagues at LasVegasAdvisor.com. And if you're interested in some gambling books or learn how to see his dad's book about art and art that has to do with gambling and through history, or want to get a card counting book, you can do that at HuntingtonPress.com. Anthony, thank you for filling in for Jonathan Karl, who's actually apparently has to do his job. I don't know why that came in front of us, but apparently It did. And next time, I hope you'll know to have a beer when you come on next. I really thank you for taking time with us.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll say thank you to all our guests who came in. If you've missed any of our earlier webcasts with Anthony Dice Blue, the wine writer, but I'm thinking of Andrew Zimmern. That's what I was trying to think. Andrew Zimmern of Bizarre Food Fames, or Samantha Brown, the television travel host. If you go to YouTube, if you just type in Rudy Maxa and I Was Thinking, those will pop up and you can watch them. And we appreciate that, because the more hours we have people watching old shows on YouTube or previous shows on YouTube, the closer we can get to monetizing it, so I can pay for this wine I'm drinking here. Anyway, nice to have you here. You can, if you don't get my newsletter, I put it out every week. It's not a sales brochure. It's a newsletter. It's my gossip about what's going on in travel. I think you will enjoy it. People who get it do. For the moment, to sign up, just go to maxatours.com. Maxa Tours, all one word, maxatours.com. Scroll down to the bottom and you'll see a place to sign you up for the email, which you'll receive every Thursday. And it's filled with clever stuff and interesting stuff that'll help you travel maybe better and a little less expensively. Meanwhile, we'll say goodbye for this week and hope to see you next week when Jonathan Karl will make another effort to come on to talk about what it's like traveling with presidents as the chief White House correspondent for ABC TV News. Meanwhile, have a safe week. Hope things keep going well and that the chart keeps going down for you. Bye-bye.